If you're a fan of conspiracy theories, then you're going to love today's topic. Remember Project Stargate, the CIA psychic spy program spanning from the 1970s to the mid-90s? If you attended public school in the US during those years, you may have unknowingly participated in an offshoot of, or possibly a recruitment program for, Project Stargate. I know it sounds like an outlandish claim, but I urge you to consider the evidence we'll be discussing in this video and to come to your own conclusion. Today we're talking about the G.A.T.E program, an acronym for Gifted and Talented Education. It was presented as nothing more than an innocent, extracurricular advanced learning program for gifted children. But as we'll soon find out, there was much more to it than just that.
This is the first step along your path to a gateway.
The G.A.T.E program wasn't testing intelligence. It was testing for psychic ability. Speaking as a G.A.T.E kid myself, here are the things you should remember. Do you remember the hearing test? Those big headphones in a darkened trailer. There was a woman's voice guiding you somewhere that didn't feel like school. That audio was Robert Monroe's Hemi-Sync, the technology the CIA used in Project Gateway to induce out-of-body experiences and explore consciousness.
Dr. Monroe's Hemi-Sync audio is our first connection between the G.A.T.E program and Project Stargate. Hemi-Sync, short for hemispheric synchronization, works by playing a slightly different frequency in each ear via headphones. This method, known as the gateway process, causes the brain to create an imaginary third frequency which helps to synchronize both brain hemispheres, inducing a deep state of focus and relaxation. In some regards, the end result is very similar to what happens in the brain during hypnosis. During Project Stargate, operatives were trained at the Monroe Institute to utilize the gateway process and Hemi-Sync audio as an aid to assist in remote viewing and astral projection. The government's deep interest in and utilization of these practices were outlined in a now declassified document from 1983. Officially titled Analysis and Assessment of Gateway Process, it's more commonly known as the Gateway Process Report.
After the audio, they handed you Zener cards, 5 symbols, circle, cross, waves, square, star. Then you had to guess which card someone was holding without seeing it. This was an ESP test. They were testing your extrasensory perception.
The use of Zener cards is our second link between the G.A.T.E program and Project Stargate. While Project Stargate is best known for remote viewing, Zener cards were actively utilized for foundational testing, screening, and profiling. Before being trained in remote viewing protocols, potential candidates were frequently given Zener cards to evaluate their innate, psychic, or intuitive baselines.
And then comes the pink drink. They called it fluoride. However, after you drank it, your memory stops. Most G.A.T.E kids report the same thing, experiencing a blank space where the rest of the session should be. They weren't testing intelligence, they were testing for intuition, psychic sensitivity, and the ability to access altered states.
It is interesting that so many people claim they couldn't remember anything after taking the pink drink. Some suggest a more mundane explanation for this, like the fact that most people's memories of daily sequential events at that age tend to be pretty hazy in general. For example, I remember recess time, but I don't recall what I did between recess and getting back on the school bus to go home. Now there is one thing that I don't get about the pink drink. If it truly was a fluoride rinse for dental health presumably, why was it only given to the gifted kids? Certainly the dental health of the regular kids was important too, right? It certainly gives the appearance of there being some other motive. So, was the pink drink truly a fluoride rinse? Some say it might have been Pepto-Bismol, but even that still begs the same questions. Why just the gifted kids? While pink drink's alleged ability to temporarily inhibit memory has no obvious relation to Project Stargate, it certainly has some pretty strong MKUltra vibes to it. The CIA and associated agencies did conduct various experiments into mind-altering substances during the broader MKUltra era to see if they could enhance psychic abilities or break Soviet mind control. Another possible link between the G.A.T.E program and Project Stargate is the timeline. The CIA officially launched Project Stargate in 1978, with the GATE program following shortly thereafter, implementing both Hemi-Sync and Zener cards in 1980. While many believe the CIA still has an active psychic spy program operating under a different name to this day, Project Stargate officially ended in 1995. This seems to be reflected in the GATE program, with the use of Zener cards and Hemi-Sync audio being largely phased out by the late 90s and early 2000s. Both programs were heavily involved in cognitive research and alternative perception, exploring altered states of consciousness, deep intuition, and anomalous cognition. Another possible link between the two is the nomenclature, specifically with the word GATE suspiciously reoccurring. GATE program, gateway process, Project Stargate, etc. Next, I want to share a few first-hand accounts from former GATE students. The following clips were compiled by an absolutely phenomenal channel here on YouTube, What It Looked Like TV. I've been watching his videos for about 2 years now, and I highly recommend checking him out. A link to What It Looked Like TV can be found in the description.
These headphones look familiar to you. You might have been involved with a program when you were in elementary school called the GATE program. That is Gifted and Talented Education, and this was really popular in the 80s and 90s. Now, when I was in school, I remember getting hearing tests, which is what a lot of other kids supposedly say they were told, and they were taken to the GATE program. It involved a lot of matching items like these, like matching shapes, remembering things to see like how good your memory was. The theory behind the GATE program was that this wasn't to test your hearing or to put you in a special program or see what type of accelerated learning you would do good in, that it was more done by the government to test if you had some type of psychic ability. And a lot of people think this is where the idea for the show Stranger Things came from, the GATE program, which a lot of people remember happening, but also don't remember too much about the specific testing process.
Thousands of adults, people who have never met, never spoke, didn't grow up in the same state, are recalling memories that do not fit the harmless picture of a gifted education program. Memories of being pulled from class by someone who didn't work at the school, memories of windowless rooms, strange boxes, Zener-style cards, headphones attached to briefcases, hypnosis-style audio, mysterious pink drinks, and the repeated instruction to visualize. Don't guess, visualize. These are not part of the curriculum in any district handbook. These are not the tests given by school nurses or guidance counselors. And yet, the details match across thousands of people from the late 70s to the 80s and 90s. People separated by geography, but connected by memory. Because when we compare these recollections to declassified government programs from the same decades, the overlap becomes too strange to ignore. Predecessors to the GATE program emerged in the late 1950s. Coincidentally, this is also around the time the federal government stepped directly into public education through the National Defense Education Act. They funded psychological tests, IQ screenings, creativity assessments, and early childhood evaluations designed specifically to identify children who showed unusual potential. That part is documented. That part is real. But here's where it becomes unsettling. At the exact same time, behind the scenes, the CIA was running covert behavioral experiments, Projects Bluebird, Artichoke, and eventually MK Ultra. They were studying hypnosis, memory alteration, remote viewing, sensory manipulation, and altered states of consciousness. And every single method they used shows up in the memories of certain GATE alumni. The headphones, the tones and frequencies, the guided imagery, the dissociation, the visualization tests, the missing time, the amnesia-like gaps in childhood memory. The timelines match, the techniques match, and the population being tested.
A lot of us are older, and a lot of us been through the GATE program or other gifted and talented programs, and a lot of stuff just don't add up, man. I remember I used to have to go outside. We had trailers where all this stuff would take place at. We had a trailer where the hearing test would take place at, and now looking back, it is a little odd that the trailer didn't have any windows.
This next person was in the GATE program back in the 70s. She doesn't mention anything about the pink drink, but she does mention being given something else that she claims had the same type of amnesia effect.
I was in the GATE problem probably a lot earlier in time than you. It would have been in the 70s. There were things they did then that they wouldn't have done in the 80s or the 90s. One of the weird things was the stars. No one's mentioned this at all, but there were gold metallic stars that they would give us And depending on how well you did was the color of the star that you got. And the gold stars had a weird taste to them. When you'd lick them, there were the lick stars, the ones that had adhesive. If you did really well and you got a gold star, they'd make you feel weird. And I don't remember much more than that. I remember that gold star days were like you did nothing else that day. At least nothing that I could remember.
She goes on to mention a few activities she recalled during her time in the GATE program, but one in particular caught my attention.
A lot of what is at this location given only numbers, or what's in this envelope. Like, read what's in this envelope.
That sounds a lot like remote viewing to me, the exact same practice for which Project Stargate is best known. And then there's the mystery of what's come to be known as Mall World, which is a shared dreamscape described by many former GATE students.
A few years ago, a thread appeared on Reddit where people began sharing stories about visiting this same enormous mall in their dreams. Since then, tens of thousands of people from all over the world have come forward with eerily similar experiences. And they all have one thing in common. They aren't just dreaming about the same place. Some of them even claim they've met each other over there. They even have a name for it. You're in Mall World.
If you were in the Gifted and Talented program, also known as GATE, Project SOAR, Project Talent, or SEED in the 70s, 80s, 90s, or early 2000s, you may share some unusual traits and experiences with other participants. Today I'm going to speak on one specific phenomenon that many GATE participants talk about, especially those who were in the program in the 90s and early 2000s. Do you remember, or do you still have today, dreams of a complex place that many people describe as Mall World? Mall World is not just a shopping center in a dream, it's like a giant maze-like, uncanny structure that can contain like endless levels and escalators and mirrored elevators and back rooms and service corridors, old and new wings, changes in lighting, weird geometry, escalators that go nowhere, rooms that reset, looping hallways.
If you've ever dreamed about a mall with endless escalators, rows of broken toilets, or an amusement park that feels AI generated, you're not alone. In October of 2025, an artist named Jessica Tilton posted a map of her recurring dream to TikTok. 2 million views later, thousands of people were saying the same thing. I recognize this place. I've been there in my dreams too. The New York Times covered it and Forbes wrote about it, but this story actually starts 9 years earlier on an obscure paranormal forum with one simple question. Anyone frequent Mall World in their dreams?
Our next person has a pretty interesting claim, but take it with a grain of salt.
But if you went to public school in America in the 1990s, you were 100% tested for psychic ability. The GATE program was the Gifted and Talented Education Program. I was a psychic in the Navy, and the number one question I get when I tell people that is, how did you get that job? Did you just walk in there and ask them for it? And I always have to tell them no, because that is not how it works. I actually got discovered when I was in elementary school at 10 years old through the GATE program. The GATE program was actually run by the CIA, and because they did it in elementary schools, most people assumed that they meant gifted and talented, like you may be gifted at reading or talented at math. That's not what they meant, babe. They meant, do you have a gift? Are you talented at psychic ability? First of all, what they were looking for was people to serve in the military, and they were looking for somebody that was good at a specific psychic ability called psychometry. The ability to read the energy of objects. If anybody's followed my page for long enough, somewhere on there is a video that says, I was a psychic in the Navy, but it doesn't work the way you think it works. I actually can feel the energy of mechanical objects, and I can tell you where they're broken. That is what the GATE program was looking for. Does anybody remember these cards? The cards with the pictures on the back. And one person would hold it up, and you were supposed to be able to visualize or see if you could visualize the picture on the other side of the card. You were not supposed to be guessing. You were trying to see if you could actually feel or tell what was on the other side of the card, either through a physical feeling, a vision in your head, or just something, right? But you were not supposed to be guessing. They would say specifically the word visualize on purpose because they did not want you to guess.
So the rabbit hole goes very deep with this whole GATE thing, and there's so much information that I didn't include in this video. There are entire channels on YouTube that are dedicated to just this one topic. So if you are a GATE, or if you were a GATE kid, let me know in the comments. Let me know if you had any of these experiences yourself. Have you ever dreamed of Mall World? Let me know down in the comments. Hey everyone, Drew here from Mad Cat Mysteries, and I hope you enjoyed the video you just watched. If you did, you can click on the subscribe button below. I'd appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.